Hi, my name's Greg Harbaugh. I offensive graduate assistant with the Western Michigan football team, and my ergonomic aid is the drug Adderall. I used a funny picture there at the bottom. Adderall can't pass without it. Just added a little bit of humor to my PowerPoint, but I think Adderall is a drug that has positive effects and negative effects. I will explain to you the effects of it, as well as what is good and bad about it. Also, what it pertains to sport, and a couple different slides. And then I also have a couple videos, one of which is a documentary of an athlete through research found, and I think it gives someone a good idea of a non-professional athlete and what they go through while using Adderall, and helping with the focus, and everything like that. So, hope you enjoy. First thing I want to talk about is what exactly is an ergonomic aid. And ergogenic aid can be broadly defined as a technique or substance used for the purpose of enhancing performance. When I was assigned this project, I thought, long and hard about different things. What drug, what aid, definitely describes that. And Adderall, the drug, definitely enhances purpose. And that really defines, the aid as well as Adderall. Something that I think is, very, 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 very important. One other thing, as far as Adderall goes, people have told me in the coaching profession that I should try to take Adderall because it helps with focus, and I'll explain that here later on. Why take Adderall? Adderall increases alertness like you have no idea. Creates stimulation. It also creates greater sociability. Mood lift. Now that can be bad or good. Mood lift can be a lot of different things. Euphoria. Euphoria also one of the things that could be positive or negative. But I think people sometimes do it just for the euphoric state that they get put in. Increased focus. That is the number one reason why I looked into this drug as far as my project goes, because so many people take it to increase their focus and to deter away from ADHD, the condition that people have. Cognitive enhancement. Another thing that inhibits or increases the use of Adderall. Improved physical performance. Another thing why I chose it was sport. Something that I think is critical, and like I said, that will be discussed later on in great detail. And then increased motivation. Some people just battle with depression, and they end up taking Adderall for certain things, and yeah. There are some negative effects to Adderall. I'm going to list these off. Increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, reduced appetite, paranoia, fever, anxiety, aggressiveness, insomnia, diarrhea, irregular heartbeat, and increased temperature. All these things are obviously very negative, and they cause a lot of problems in your Adderall use. Want to make one point very clear. Adderall is not sedating, but it does reduce task switching as well as create laser focus. That's one of the reasons why people, told me that maybe I should look into getting a prescription for it for the heavy workload that we do have as coaches, because we do have to multitask. We do have to focus in a lot, at after long hours and late nights. So that's why people have recommended to me before to look into it. Never have though. Never have. 3 points here that I got through references that are listed later. Adderall helps normalize the brain activity and possibly structure of it. There are negative effects on behavior that become increasingly possible. Although it is not damaging to developing the brain, Adderall really has no effects on you as a individual to a point where you could be injured or harmed, but it does have effects to the point that you really could have your behavioral issues tested. When does Adderall start working? One dosage of Adderall will last from last for about 3 to 5 hours, and that's pretty powerful stuff. It will also start working within as early as 10 minutes to as long as 30 minutes. So, depending on the dose, if you take 2 doses, could hit you longer. Just depends. You just don't want to overuse it. Withdrawal symptoms can be quite difficult with dealing with Adderall. Things that you can deal with are significant lack of energy, depressive symptoms, anxiety, fatigue, depression, and greater appetite. All things that are very difficult to deal with. In the first journal article that I wrote about, it discussed adolescent athletic, it was called adolescent athletic participation and non-medical Adderall use, an exploratory analysis of a performance-enhancing drug. That's what I wanted to kind of look at is, Adderall being a PED, and that, the results were found that males that use Adderall showed a greater response in contact sports than other sports. And, I don't know why that occurred, but I think it was just because of, the focus you need to have in a contact sport, with everything going on, and the focus has just got to be there. It's amazing. The usage was also more effective in males than females. And once again, the journal article didn't really, know why that occurred, but it did, and it was very interesting from that standpoint of, why Adderall is used or more effective in males than females. The next portion is going to be a video coming up here soon on Adderall and sport. And check that out.
Everywhere and on the field, there appears to be an image problem with the NFL right now. An Adderall epidemic. This weekend alone, 4 players suspended. Since the start of 2012, 21 suspended for PEDs, most of those thought to be Adderall. Commonly prescribed for ADHD and ADD. It's an amphetamine that is supposed to increase blood flow, and oxygen, and focus. How big of a concern is this for the league right now, Woody Page?
I think it's a big concern this year because of what's going on here and the fact that the NFL doesn't announce whether it's steroids or some other performance-enhancing drug, and they need to do that. I think players are conveniently using Adderall as the reason that they're being suspended when it quite possibly could be steroids. The NFL needs to take care of that problem.
Pablo Torre?
Yeah, the problem associate with PEDs. And the problem is that football isn't baseball. We don't care about records. We just care about all-out violence. This is not going to go anywhere.
Jackie Mack.
Well, you have a point about the HGH because they're always one step ahead of the new testing for HGH. But I think Adderall is quickly becoming the new designer drug in the NFL because of some of the things what he said. Adderall, like steroids, by the way. Remember, at one point, steroids, there's a very legitimate use for steroids in the medical community, as there is Adderall. But when you start abusing either one of those drugs, you've got problems in your league. And we already know that the NFL
legitimate
has
use, there's legitimate use for players in the league right now who are suffering from ADD or ADHD.
You bet.
And they have a prescription and they are allowed to use it on Sundays and still play in the games. Go ahead, Flash Steve.
You know, you think it's the problem in locker rooms. Just walk on any college campus in this country. There's a lot of kids who will buy Adderall from their ADHD and ADD classmates to help them get through finals, to help them do better on tests. This has been happening for several years, so it's no surprise it's happening in the NFL locker room. And it is indeed a huge issue. And I truly believe the league's got to figure out how to handle it because it's going to be huge.
Nice to be able to talk to you all.
Adderall affects performance in multiple ways. The most commonly used stimulant for cognitive enhancement is Adderall. The ability to enhance the cognition of a normal, healthy people has been demonstrated by a number of laboratory studies with tests of problem solving and executive function. That last slide with the video of very interesting takes on Around the Horn, a popular ESPN show, just about PED use in the NFL and people getting suspended. Just very interesting stuff as far as the usage of Adderall in sport. And then the next slide is going to be a documentary, like I said, I found of on I'm an athlete. I don't know the athlete. It was an awesome video. It was just about an athlete dealing with usage of Adderall and how he deals with that. A documentary, and hope you enjoy.
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is one of the most common neurobiological disorders of childhood and often continues through adolescence and adulthood. In the past, some individuals and groups believed that young adults would simply outgrow ADHD. However, some young adults develop strategies to mitigate ADHD symptoms. What sport do you play?
Lacrosse.
What position do you play?
Defense.
Close defense or long stick mid?
Close team.
And how long have you been playing?
Probably 7 or 8 years.
When were you first diagnosed, and what were you diagnosed with?
At first, I was diagnosed in the 7th grade with having ADHD, and then afterwards, that was, I don't know, actually, I need to think about that question.
I was diagnosed with ADHD at a young age, but it has been some 5 years that I've been off medications. What sport do you play?
I play lacrosse here at LaSalle.
What position do you play?
I play long stick midi, defense.
And how long have you been playing?
I've been playing roughly 8 to 9 years.
And when were you first diagnosed, and what were you diagnosed with?
It was my sophomore year in high school, and I went to the doctor just because I had problems focusing, and eventually they told me that I had ADD and ADHD.
And have you been medicated consistently since then?
Yes, I take Ritalin on a regular basis. Sometimes I don't take it, like on Sundays I won't take it because I don't find a need to because I'm not really doing anything, but yes.
ADHD symptoms are often noticed by student athletes in situations such as listening to a lecture in class, completing homework assignments, talking with friends, or even listening to a coach's instructions. Many people assume that student athletes are emotionally healthy in the same ways that they are assumed to be physically healthy. However, just as students may suffer with physical illnesses and injuries, they are also vulnerable to mental health disorders, including ADHD. How do you feel off medications?
I feel the same way. I mean, I can definitely tell when I'm taking it. I can tell that like I've been taking it, and sometimes it's good just to take a break.
Do you notice a difference in performance?
I definitely am able to sit down for a long period of time. I don't necessarily think it makes me do better, but I think it gives me the opportunity to do better and sit down and focus, keep my mind on one track.
And do you notice a difference in behavior at all?
I definitely am more reserved, less talkative.
How have you adjusted to life as a student athlete with a learning disability?
I find it hard sometimes because I'll get ahead of myself and think that I don't have as much work, but then I actually realize, wow, like I have to deal with practice, and then I have to sit down and read 60 pages for a homework assignment.
Where would you say is your balance point? How do you balance those?
My roommates kind of help me. They don't play sports at the same time as me, so we all sit down and do work together. So we all kind of get in that work mode together and do our works at the same time.
Do you feel challenged at all or frustrated?
Yeah, sometimes. Of course, it's like a lot to put on a plate with a couple hours of practice and film each day, and then a couple hours of homework. You know, you kind of get dragged out.
How do you feel off the medications?
A little bit easier to get distracted, you know. Maybe a little bit more anxious.
And do you feel better on medications?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different kind of, it's a different level of better. It's like, when I'm not on it, I feel fine, but when I am on it, I also feel fine. I just am more concentrated.
Do you notice a difference in performance
Absolutely, yeah.
on the field and off?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel a lot more focused on and off the field in general, and maybe a little bit more energetic.
When you're on medication?
Yeah.
And what about behavior?
What do you mean?
Does your medication affect your behavior? Like mood swings or anything like that?
I mean, you'd have to ask one of my friends, but I don't think so personally. I mean, if you're coming off of it a little bit too hard, maybe.
And have you been medicated consistently since then?
On and off through high school. I've had some pretty bad reactions to a few of them, and then they just sometimes didn't work out, and I just stopped for a while. Then once I got back here, I started back.
How have you adjusted to life as a student athlete with ADHD?
I think I've adjusted fairly well. I mean, it's pretty hard to keep everything balanced as it is, but I don't think my struggle is any harder than anybody else's.
Have you been challenged at all
in any other circumstance? Really?
by having ADHD?
A little bit. You know, it's hard to stay concentrated sometimes when, like, all together when I'm not on it, and just like as I said before, it's just a little bit difficult sometimes.
Do you have any advice for younger student athletes with learning disabilities?
Yeah, get all your work done. Definitely just try to put your head down and keep organized. Like, keep track of when your assignments are due, and like and just schedule time. Like, actually make a schedule and schedule all your time to be able to fit your work and your practice and whatever other commitments you have into that.
Although living with ADHD is sometimes difficult, being a D3 athlete almost helps in a way. We develop daily routines, adopt good habits, and eat right and exercise. This can go a long way for someone with ADHD, especially someone that isn't an athlete. The three core symptoms of ADHD are inattention, hyperactivity, impulsivity. Dealing with stress can sometimes put people on edge. It's important to have stress relief in your life. Working out at the gym is one of the most important ways to blow off steam for an athlete. Do you have any advice for future student athletes with learning disabilities?
Yeah, I mean, just time budget and allowing yourself like enough time to like actually rest and like build up enough energy to do good work instead of just stringing yourself out and putting in like not the best work you can possibly do.
Wow, what an amazing video. To finish up my PowerPoint, the question that I want to ask for your feedback on, or what are your thoughts on athletes using Adderall as a way to focus in more? Should it be illegal? Should it be, you know, should it be allowed? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. And then the next couple slides are just my references. Feel free to check them out and do any kind of research you want on Adderall.